And they were so very, very close. But still, we made a huge distinction between them.
The two roles are?
The two original roles were data scientist and ML engineer. And it was really, as I said,
and how would you describe the differences?
Yeah, today I say the difference is between the drive of the person, what they want to do, where their interest lies, rather than the actual competence. Because we require senior profiles to essentially be able to do both. They marry at the top, but it's more, what is it that you want to invest your most time into? Are you more thinking about the value generation from the model, or are you more thinking about how to serve this and scale this across the organization? Then the engineering area has really grown tremendously, and we have not followed after with the data scientist role, going into details of like, are you a deep learning specialist? Are you a recommendation engine specialist or anything like that?
But the basic distinction is, are you more focused on getting the right and validating the right model, so to speak?
Yes.
Or you're more focused on how you deploy and service a model and scale it?
Yes, exactly. It's scaling versus model performance.
Okay. I think also it could add more part or some more nuances to it.
Yes.
And one is simply that you need someone that is very, well versed into the theory of how something works, but you also need someone that's really very knowledgeable in the engineering skill of simply building a large system that have all these components together.
Yeah.
And that, scaling and deploying is one part, but that's only one part, I would argue, of actually building a system that can truly, put the model in use and integrate that into some system that you want to use. And that requires so much, engineering skills that the data scientist would have no clue, or at least some of them, if you're not in a more senior role at least, that they need ML engineers, data engineers, etc., to be able to actually put that in use in some system.
And actually, it requires knowledge that is even greater than what we have in the AI Foundation. So we have 10 different tech moves that all drive towards this digitalization journey that we have. And one of these tech moves is just focusing on real-time APIs. And another one is focusing on how do we deploy systems to our front end.
Right.
And another one is...
So now you're actually moving out of the AI Foundation function, but it's very important for the whole ecosystem, so to speak.
Exactly, for the entire journey that the H&M is on, definitely. So it is huge, and it's impossible that one profile will be able to solve all of that, unfortunately.
And I think, so many people focus far too much on the model itself. Yeah. And we heard, Andrew Ng and et cetera speaking about the model-centric versus data-centric kind of thinking. And I think it's more than the data-centric. Data, of course, should be really, in high focus, but also the actual software engineering aspects in general should be in focus. Also the, how do you have a proper data source, data management on that? How do you have the proper back-end engineering and front-end engineering on that? How do you have the proper infra engineering on that? I mean, all of these are super cool stuff that, they develop new technologies for, day by day, just as much as they do in ML and AI, I would argue.
Exactly. And this is where everything needs to be a culture, as I see it. The entire organization needs to be behind one common purpose. And no matter what kind of profile you have, everyone needs to see the greater purpose of how they contribute.
Yeah. Now, let me even argue that even now here we have a quite high level of sophistication on these topics now. And we're actually talking about this from a perspective, what could be Spotify or, quite hardcore, poster child of this one. H&M has done one of the most intense investments and efforts focused in Sweden, I would argue, or in Northern Europe, in taking an analog business fully hardcore digital at scale, right?
Yes.
So if I take a step back now, this is a theory I want to test with you guys. I can really see a trajectory. If I try to remember back, where are we coming from in 2010, 11, 12? And I see two kind of different paths on how we got to data science. I see the one path I saw which many are on and still are on today, I argue. They start with some sort of idea around the analytical ladder. So we are talking BI and reporting, and we're moving to advanced analytics.
Yes.
But in my opinion, then, when you scrape the surface of this, and this is highly sophisticated people, a very clear role in itself, but their job now as a data scientist is more about serving an insight, or wrangling and doing all the modeling, and then coming up with an insight to maybe an ad hoc problem or a big question. But it sort of starts, it's an advanced analytics framing of the topic. And this is sort of then, you have the data scientist as is sort of moving from statistics and advanced analytics and prescriptive, predictive analysis, whatever. And then I see the other train, which is more software development trajectory. We have been building microservices. We are building like this, and we have a more and more increased sophistication of our microservices, where we all of a sudden now want to have algorithms in production as a mindset already from the start. I mean, it's
the difference of using, AI for BI purposes, or for a product purpose, or for a finance purpose, or for a sales purpose, or whatever. I mean, a marketing purpose. You can use AI for so much more. Yes. And I think a lot of people and companies are focusing so much on the BI purpose.
Yes. So, and this is my main, in Paltarion, you were pushing the lingo around operational AI. Yes. So I think that could be one way to guide people in how to think about that, because we're coming from a business intelligence trajectory, looking at the past, and we want to be forward-looking. We do scenario, and somewhere here we have predictions, and then we can have machine learning type algorithms to support us with BI forward-looking. Mm-hmm. But that's a different ballgame, I argue, than coming from the operational view that I'm going to build a recommender system, or I'm going to have algorithms as part of my platform product or app, so to speak.
I think, for me at least, looking at H&M from the inside, I think one of the reasons why many people end up in sort of using AI or data science or whatever for BI is mostly because it's so extremely costly to do this properly for real production systems. We need to invest so much money in just changing the website, in tracking all of our goods through our supply chains, working with our suppliers to provide us with the data that we need in order to do this. So I think that's where people don't understand the jump that you need to go from predictive to prescriptive analytics.
And the jump you need to do in your infrastructure to serve BI purpose versus serving an operational purpose.
Exactly.
Real time, taking algorithms into your hardcore, planning.
But phrase it properly now. I think it's dangerous if you say it's so much easier to use AI for BI purposes than it is for a product purpose. I think sometimes it can be easier for a product purpose to use AI as well. And you certainly don't need to do the full analytical ladder, right?
Okay.
Before you can start using AI for other purposes.
Let's be very, very sharp now. So from a BI purpose, it can seem easier because whatever you're doing is ending up in insights, and the whole deploying the insight in production piece is not as sophisticated. However, what is more complicated sometimes when you do BI is all of a sudden you need to have the contextual awareness. So you need to have much more data on many different angles, and you need to validate for many different purposes. And what your argument now, if I can I can put the camera on my production line, and that camera has one purpose and is very narrow in terms of detecting something that is wrong.
And you don't need an analytical ladder to start doing that.
And you don't need to build a data warehouse. You don't need to build anything. You need to build a data pipeline, a training data set, and you need to build you need to ingest the sensor data, and then you need to deploy whatever insights or signal into production, right?
Exactly.
So basically, depending on what we are talking about, we're getting into different types of challenges. So, and I think this is an important point.
Very common misconception that a lot of companies have. But I think, of course, it's good to use it for BI purposes. Of course, they should. Yeah. But don't wait with other purposes. That's, I think, the main message.
But if you think carefully now, I think this is one of the challenges, right? Because if you want to get into production type of topics, then you need to look at the use case with completely different eyes, going down to the production line, or going to the planning office doing the planning and really solve their operational daily problems.
Yeah, I would agree with, the way that we're recommending we develop use cases is really that you start with a proper data understanding. Now you can push in data into sort of an auto ML type of model and see what you get, but that's also where the data-centric AI approach becomes really valuable. Thinking about what kind of features you actually use will have an impact on the performance. What does a 0 in your data actually mean? Is it an incorrect data point or is it something else? And learning that, telling your AI model to learn that is sometimes, it requires more data.
There is this famous article from 2015 from Google called The Hidden Technical Depth of Machine Learning.
Yes, exactly.
And they have this very infamous or famous picture showing that the modeling part is in the center of something, but they have all these supporting systems around it that comprise of like 95% of the true system.
Yeah.
I think it's still very telling and something that I hope more people understood, the purpose of. Do you agree with that? Or how important or how big of an work effort would you say the modeling part is compared to the rest of the systems?
Depends on the maturity of the ecosystem, I would say, because I think we've been using that actually as sort of if you change it around, if you invest in a really good serving infrastructure, then all you need to do is actually deploy a Docker image or something like that of your code, and then it's like 100% of the code is.
Are we at that point? Even if you use the latest type of cloud service provider, and can you simply build a Docker image and then everything is working?
No, but it's the holy grail, right?
Yes. At some point, I hope that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So, but it does the amount of code that goes into a traditional sort of product would depend on sort of the serving infrastructure that you have around. But it's a really good point. The code for the modeling is typically very small in all of our use cases.
But if I try to wrap up this nice conversation and so we can move into a proper introduction for you, Bjorn. We started off with the maturity of how roles have evolved and understanding more clarity in order to cover the whole ecosystem in production. And of course, then this ecosystem in production, what is that? Has on the one angle what you need in order to drive a BI type use case and slightly different things you need to worry about. Sometimes simpler, sometimes harder when you put operational AI in production. Is that a fair summary that the roles have evolved as we better and better understand these things, how they work?
I think also as an organization grows, right? The bigger the organization grows, the more flexibility you have to bring in different roles. Definitely. I
will park that question because I want to have a conversation lately on how to think in the beginning, when you're starting up a new team versus how you think 1, 2, 3 years down the track. Do you have as many detailed roles in the beginning or do you, but let's park that question because I think there's a journey topic here.
It's a rabbit hole for sure.
It's a rabbit hole. But now I want to do two things. We are right about to introduce you properly now, Bjorn. But before that, I would like to hand over the sound to Goran, because we will introduce our sponsor for this episode.
Yes, so we have a sponsor for this episode. So this episode is being sponsored by IBM. IBM helps you implement your AI strategy and trustworthy AI. According to IBM, trustworthy AI has 3 ethical principles at its core. The purpose of AI is to augment human intelligence. Second, the data and insights belong to the creator and not IBM. And third, that the new technology and AI system must be transparent and explainable. If you want to learn more about IBM's principle for implementing trustworthy AI, go to www.ibm.com/Watson/trustworthy-AI and learn more about it. So that is it all from our sponsor.
I think we should continue on those 3 points, though. I think they're really good, but we could do that later, perhaps.
So, have you picked up on the key points? So then we can integrate our sponsorship message into our conversation. I think that is very nice. But now, without further ado, I want to introduce you properly, Bjorn Hertzberg, and we are very, very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And I think we basically start with the existential question first. Who am I? Who is Bjorn Hertzberg? How would you sort of introduce yourself?
Good question. I'm a 40-something old guy working in Stockholm. Love data, love math, love everything that creates value out of data. I sort of live in the intersection between computers, data, and business value, as I see it. That's me.
That's you. And it's always fun, or I think it's very a learning curve in understanding a little bit about what is shaping someone's views based on their experiences and their career, or shaping moments. So, could you take us a little bit through the major steps of your career, and maybe some shaping moments? How did you get onto the path of data and all that, even from the beginning?
The path of data started probably before I started working. Probably the first experience that I have is my father coming back home with a very old computer and starting to code on it. 286, exactly.
You love those.
Yeah, I actually sat in an interview and at JP Morgan and talked about who had experience of the earliest DOS version.
Yeah, that was the claim of fame, right?
Exactly.
And you got to 1.02.
Yeah, exactly.
I read it internally. So.
Yeah, exactly. 1.02. It was actually a friend of the family that was working at Ericsson that was able to get a very, very old DOS version just to make the computer work.
Was that MS-DOS or was it some other?
Yeah, it was MS-DOS.
Wow.
MS-DOS.
Bill Gates,
Bill Gates, exactly. Early days of Bill Gates, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first experience. Then the next one was probably around the same time. I had a really good math teacher. He got me excited of mathematical proofs. And that, I think, is the first time I started understanding the power of proofs, and we see this in data science today as well. I mean, you have numbers and you get a coefficient of a regression or something like that, and you make predictions. It's similar. It's not as direct potentially as a mathematical proof, which is more logic, but it still holds. It still holds empirically. So that was really fun. And then I think it was when I started trading stocks, because I started doing my own.
What year was this, or how old were you at that time?
15. Probably a bit younger. I mean, it was on this old computer.
So you were trading stocks on the computer, but how did it work at that time when you were 15?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good, actually. I started doing quant trading. So I had an old system that was called Viking Analytics or something like that. And there you could code your own technical indicators. So that became my trading system.
So you figured out the trading model with technical indicators that you used to. How fast could you trade?
It was not very fast. Fast trading I've done later, but then it was like a holding period of like 2 months or something like that because it was so small positions. Right?
Yeah. Would you consider that day trading, or is it slower than day trading?
It was definitely slower than day trading. For me, day trading is you trade intraday.
Intraday. Intraday trading.
Yeah. Or that potentially is more swing trading, but holding something a short period of time.
Yeah, so it's not long-term trading, but it's holding periods for about 1 or 2 months.
Yeah, that was what I did back then. Yeah, definitely, because the commissions were so high that it just blew through all the profitability levels. But the thing is that the thing that I made my most money on was just IPOs. Buying an IPO, and it went through the roof. So I bought the TV4 IPO, and that had me home free.
So you remember the best IPOs that you did? TV4, of course, is the one that came to mind.
Exactly, but because that one was so good, I made like 70% in less than a day.
Yeah, that's good.
Did you sell it directly, or did you have to?
I sold it intraday. Yeah, exactly.
On the same day?
Yeah, exactly. I put in a limit. I think it was on 100. That you bought it at 100 krona, and I think I added a limit of 172, and I got it sold at 174.
But that's real profit when you actually can do it in the NPV goes, that's nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. And
15, 16, you said?
Yeah.
But how did TV4 continue to perform? Did it actually increase far above 170 or?
Afterwards, yeah, definitely. But it did fall back. Yeah. So I was extremely fortunate selling it at 174. I think it ended like the week at 140 or something like that.
So I've done the opposite thing. So I sold it, very early, and then it just skyrocketed, like doubled in 1 year, and that's
exactly. I was almost able to buy SE-banken at like 6 krona.
Oh, and they did a new emission.
Yeah, exactly. It was like
Yeah,
but that was when I was 18 and I wanted to have my own account. So I waited a month, and then they were up in 12, and I said no, the ride is gone. And then
it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
But let us take where did you, and from this interest now, how did you think about going into school and university? The university idea. Where were you when you were planning for your university, and what did you focus on?
Yeah, I've always sort of been drawn between the area of business, business strategy usually, and something in mathematics. And it started out with really focusing on the business side. But I realized that it hadn't enough of the mathematics. So after a while, I realized that, hey, finance, that's my thing. So I moved to Lund and started studying economics there.
Yeah. And what did you think you were going to become? Do you remember this? I'm going to Lund now to become what?
It varied over time. So originally it was a fixed income trader, then it was macroeconomic, and then moved into asset management. And then I started in asset management as well.
Yeah.
But it varied.
So you did your, was it a master's down there in Lund? Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. A master's in economics.
A master's in economics. And then I know you ended up in Nasdaq eventually, but what was the first jobs you landed, or what was your trajectory to Nasdaq? And
the first job was actually the very first job was at a company in Denmark called SimCorp. I didn't stay there for a very long time. It's a great company, but it wasn't really for me. And the next job that I had was starting up Exact Fonder here in Stockholm. So I was assistant fund manager of Exact OMX for a few years there.
That was part of OMX?
Yeah, that was part of OMX back then. And also I did some fund management of some fixed income funds that we were managing on behalf of other companies there.
So then you were a pure finance guy, so to speak.
Yeah,
you were running the funds, working on the funds.
Exactly. That was also one of the first times that I saw we were talking about mathematical proofs. This is where I started doing more the applying mathematical models or statistical models to making money for something. So creating the business value.
And concretely, what type of models? What are we talking about here as a way to project? What to buy and sell at, or what was it concretely?
Yeah, exactly. It was a model for index. So we were only doing index fund management, and here the idea was getting as close as possible to the reference fund that you have, and preferably making more money than the reference fund rather than less money. But the fund didn't have that much money, so it was like 200 million Swedish krona, not a huge fund. And the fixed income market has very big nominal amounts that you need to invest in. So the problem was finding the optimal rebalancing portfolio, or the optimal balancing, what's it called? Index portfolio that tracks the performance as well as possible. So I did a PCA analysis on the
what is PCA?
Principal component analysis. So understanding what the key fluctuations, how to describe them, and then using that to find the optimal weighting.
And what's the math behind that?
Yeah,
do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, it's matrix analysis, essentially trying to understand what causes the maximum variation in these movements. The interesting thing is that the first moment in the fixed income market is that all interest rates move by roughly an equal amount up and down. So you can buy any type of instrument, really. The next one is that it sort of steepens or flattens the curve. And then using those moments, you can actually do bets on the markets. So the exact same theory can actually be used to make bets.
For horses or sports betting, you mean?
Yeah, you can do that for sports betting as well. And you can do it for option trading, and you can do it for anything that has some underlying correlation structure. So yeah, definitely.
Cool. And how long were you in this game, and what was the trajectory after this?
I was there like 1.5 years, and then I moved into risk management instead.
Still in OMX?
Still in OMX, yeah. Exactly.
And then for everybody, OMX was then Nasdaq at some point.
Exactly. So the origin is that this was the option market, OM-gruppen. And then OM-gruppen actually bought the Stockholm Stock Exchange, and that's when they added the OMX to this. Let's see here.
When was this? I remember I have friends who worked there and still works there. So
yeah, this was. Let's see here. I started there in 2001. Was with Exact Fonder. And then 2003 to 2005 was when I was working at risk management.
And when did because OM became OMX, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And basically they started to basically manage and power up stock exchanges.
Yes, exactly.
As a simple summary. I remember it because when I was living in Australia, some of my best friends there were out on a gig from OMX and they were sorting out I think it was Sydney Stock Exchange or Australia. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember it.
ASX.
But ASX, right?
Yeah, Australian Stock Exchange.
Because two of my good friends that I was, hanging out on Manly Beach, they were going in and sorting out the whole. They were working on the hardcore stuff, setting that up.
Okay.
So, but this was about 2006, maybe 5, 6. Could that be right?
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. So the OM group, because no one was trading options originally, and there were very, very few automated systems in the world. Even in the U.S., they frowned upon electronic trading.
So OM had a huge head start on the whole world.
Exactly. And also both for option trading and for stock trading. So there was the click system and the secure system.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty early. And then many of these companies that we have here as well, what are they called? T-Bricks, Orc.
Yeah, Orc Capital. I like the system.
Yeah, exactly. All of these companies, or many of these systems, actually come from people that have been working at OM.
So Orc is one of the parts of the trading system, how you connect the deals and all that, or how do you close the deals, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was essentially the front end system to the click system, which was the matching engine.
Yeah. So we have now this is quite early, and we are quite sophisticated in OM Group, and so you have the click system doing what?
The click was option trading.
That's the option trading core system.
Yeah, and then there was the SAX system, which was the cash trading, right. And then Secure was doing the collateral management and risk management.
And then you had Orc as
the front end.
The front end for the customers or the.
Well, it was actually originally there were two different front ends, one for cash and one for option trading, and then they created this united system for both front ends, and that was essentially to make sure that you could hedge your bets, and that became then the Orc system.
And maybe a fun question: how much machine learning or analytics was part of these type of systems back then?
I don't think very much. In the risk management, definitely. The risk management, but it's fairly trivial, sort of, because it needs to be so robust.
Yes.
You
Number one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Robustness is the key there. So the systems are fairly trivial. They build on these underlying principles of data and math. But they're really, really trivial. So we took sort of the historic price changes, daily price changes, and took, I think it was interpolated between the second and third most volatile day, something like that, to get the error or the expected, the maximum price difference, and using that to calculate the collateral that we required from the market.
Wow, those were the days.
Those were the days.
Can I ask a question about, some kind of more of a trading skeptic, so to speak?
Yeah.
He has some idea about, fund management and these kind of organization that tries to manage different funds. And he claims, and please let me know if that's true or false, if you know, but he claims that the people that manage funds simply create X number of funds per year. They more or less randomly, or they have some ideas, but in reality, it actually is just random if they will succeed or not. And then they take the funds that have failed and they shut it down and consolidate that into the funds that are actually going well. And by doing so over and over again, you constantly will have a set of funds that's going well.
Yes.
But it's just by random, and that's simply a technique or a strategy that they employ to make it look like they are a really good fund manager.
Yeah, some do that.
Yeah,
it does exist, definitely. But I mean, if you're approached by, if you're very rich and you're approached by people trying to sell you a new fund and it doesn't have a lot of investors currently, that is a high risk, without a doubt. But for instance, Brummer & Partner, what they do, I mean, they understand this as well, and they see the risk of getting one of those funds under their management. So what they do is that they require you to provide them with the expected profitability day by day for that fund. And then you need to trade for 6 months, I think it is, 6 or 12 months. So really to see that this is a correct strategy. So what you should do is if you want to invest in a hedge fund, go with a brand name.
It's still a very basic advice, but it's sound.
Yeah, it is.
But and now, how long did you stay all up in and did it turn into Nasdaq before you left, or was it still OMX when you left?
It was OMX when I left, and then I left for Reuters at 2000. I think it was 2004 actually. Now, when I start thinking about it. where I actually moved more into programming. It was a group called Solution Services Group. Finance is so much about modeling, so that what we did was actually a lot of modeling, but we focused more on creating like Excel sheets or VB.NET models.
And so Solution Services Group, what did they do in the Reuters family, so to speak? Or what was the mission, so to speak?
It was a few different things. Originally, it was a desktop design group. There was something that was called a desktop design group. We read in the real-time data from all of the markets globally.
From the Reuters data points.
Exactly. And then created models for risk management, for asset management, for anything really.
Selling that to your Reuters customers, or
in many cases it's just giving it away for free in order to create a value for the users,
for the to lock them in loving the subscription, so to speak.
Exactly, as a value-added service. But then we transformed that group into from a desktop design group to a solution services group, and the difference there was really that we didn't focus on the desktop. We focused more on more advanced solutions.
And what do you mean with the desktop?
The desktop is Excel and Cobra at that point.
So basically, people were stuck in their sort of whatever spreadsheets or Excels they had in their desktop, and you would try to provide value from Reuters into their desktop environment of what was, Excel or whatever.
Exactly. They might have an idea of how to optimally trade stocks, but they didn't have a systematic way of doing that. So we developed the Excel sheet for them to automate that process.
So as a lightweight approach for a customer to get more systemized, even if they don't have the full, preferred system, they're still using Excel or something.
Exactly. It was in London. You often have something that's called a desk quant that does very similar work. So they code up the solutions that the traders want to have in order to systemize the decisions that they do.
And I think it's interesting because we can talk about fancy systems and data and AI and very sophisticated stuff. But if you looked at what tech is used and making money and sort of in production, so to speak, there is a lot of this going on. Yeah, I guess still.
Exactly. And also, I think it's an interesting development. I mean, if you look at the old movie Rogue Trader, where they actually the fastest information transfer they had was calling up someone on the trading floor with a cell phone, and they saw that this was, hey, you have a change in the price in Tokyo, okay, I'm gonna buy. And then that's always sort of the limit has been pushed over time. I was speaking with a really senior guy, a customer that told me that his first advanced system was back in '83, and he was reading the pixels off of a video card, and using that, he predicted which digit it was, and then translated that into numbers. And when the price moved through thresholds, he would buy.
Have a question there?
No.
You have biting your tongue?
No, I am a bit, because I want to move to like a bigger topic here about the stock market in general. But
maybe we should should we
do a small rabbit hole?
A small rabbit hole on stock market, because we have a guest who can, I love it.
Now, of course, we want to think about the value of the stock market, and I think it has a really good purpose, and it would be fun to see what you think about what the purpose is. But I guess it can be partly that you want to have a way to provide capital for companies that to perform well in some way. But then you also have all the high frequency trading, and you have the trading that occurs perhaps not because they believe in the value of the company, simply on the speculation itself, and what other people would think of the company is more important than what they actually think of the company itself. Mm-hmm. And that can be disruptive or potentially not really beneficial for society or companies in general.
Yeah.
What do you think about the value of a stock market and high frequency trading and speculation and these kind of things?
Yeah, there's so much to say about that question. I mean, the first thing to say is that you can't generalize between Europe and the US. Those two markets work very, very differently. So a lot of what you hear about high frequency trading is probably true for the US, but not true for Europe.
Interesting.
The thing that people don't understand about high frequency trading in Europe specifically is a lot of that work is market making.
What do you mean with that?
Market making is like if you go in and want to buy foreign exchange, you want to buy euros because you're going on a trip. Someone is posting a two-way market there. They're both buying and selling Swedish krona in exchange for euros. So that's just a part of the market. You need to provide that service to the market so that there actually is a price. And that's why they update the price so frequently as well, because changes, things happen in the market essentially. Now, what happens is that the price could potentially differ between London and Sweden for the same instruments. So therefore, depending on what happens in the market, and you're also using the derivatives market. You need to update the prices frequently. Now,
why do you need to update? Wouldn't it be better to have a more stable market?
Yeah, I mean, in many cases, the best providers, the best liquidity providers, what you see is that the longer you can be in the market with your quotes, the more money you actually make. So it's in many cases the more junior firms that update their prices more frequently, and they update their prices on the outside, and that's because they have smaller inventory and loads of other issues. But the structure in the US is very different. So in the US, it's not independent stock exchanges. They're all connected. And the exchange is actually responsible for you to get the best price. If you send the specific market instructions that you want to get the best price in the market, they are obliged to give you the best price.
So it's like a price guarantee. They have to provide the value that is best in all the kind of exchanges that happens in the US then. Exactly.
Whereas here, that obligation is on the bank. Or the broker that you're using. Now, this introduces a lot of complexity because, for instance, the exchanges don't necessarily always invest in the fastest infrastructure. There is also some wording in the actual regulation, the Reg NMS, that makes it hard for exchanges to give both the words in the text and serve the best needs of the brokers. And there's like what actually happens in the market when there is a crossing price. And so both a buy and an ask on the same price on different exchanges. What is it that they should actually do? And all of these intricacies in the market actually creates a need for banks to develop their own high frequency trading strategies. Now, this opens up for issues. Let's leave it at that.
Why can't they simply regulate away that, saying that you're not allowed to do more transactions than this, period?
Yeah, you could do that. I personally think that the order should be in the market over a long period of time. You need, if you send in an order, it should rest for a period of time.
Right?
Exactly.
If we just step back, what do you think the value for society of a stock market is, if working properly?
The value is for the long-term investor, definitely.
But is it for the investor?
It's I mean, the original value for the. I like what I don't remember who it is. It's one of the CEOs for the Stockholm Stock Exchange that said this in a good way. The real value of the exchange is that it matches and pairs the needs of people that have a short-term need with those who have long-term need. And then he didn't go into the details of what short-term and long-term is.
But isn't the actual need to have capital also a good purpose for the stock market in general? That the company that do an IPO actually do receive a lot of simply cash to be able to scale, etc.
Exactly, but you can that's the primary market, and then the exchanges are actually the secondary market.
Okay, I mean it's like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's like going into a rabbit hole with someone who knows several rabbit holes that spawns out of the first rabbit hole. It's always interesting because now you highlight then you need to dissect. We have a primary market with a primary purpose of raising capital for companies. And then we have exchanges in different ways. And we work with derivatives. We work with different types of financial instruments, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so then, do you make a distinction between the exchange dimension and the primary market dimension?
A really interesting discussion around what you're talking about there is really the venture capital funds and really the startup community in the US as well. So what we saw and were a bit afraid of in the early what's it called teens, so 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. More and more of the startups were moving to venture capitals, and what really was happening there, they were providing also intellectual information. How do you start up a company?
Yeah, so the VC is not only money, but it's also the network, the advice,
exactly.
The stuff that, I have a higher chance of succeeding with my startup. It has not only to do with money per se.
Exactly.
But before we move into that, can you just elaborate a bit more on the primary and secondary markets? What is the difference? How do they work? I haven't heard the term like primary market or secondary market before.
The primary market is where the company gets money from investors. The secondary market.
Okay, investors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the secondary market is where investors trade with each other.
Right. But then if you move on to the Stockholm Exchange, I mean, that IPO in itself, I guess the IPO is being done on the secondary market then?
No, that's in the US. In the US, the IPO is run by the exchange. But not in Europe generally. So the IPO is run by the introducing brokers. So
but it is on a market that is like an exchange, right?
No. Yeah, okay. Or it's a book building activity. So you go around and ask investors if they want to invest in this company, and they build a book.
Yes.
And then usually, if you want to be listed on the Stockholm Stock Exchange, there's a requirement on how many hands that own the stock in order for there to be a proper secondary market in the end. I think it's like 5,000 investors or something. Okay. I don't remember the numbers, but you need to
did a direct IPO or something. I'm not sure what that meant, but they actually, didn't they circumvent that?
I don't remember.
Because I don't think they took that route that most other IPOs.
But let's see if I understand it and can put non-financial lingo on it. In one way, okay, IPO is about I want to go to the stock market as a company to raise money. And in the primary market, whatever we are doing, I buy into the Tesla stock or I buy into something like that, and I trade the stock itself. Then when you get to a certain level of how many owners of stock you have, or you start opening up the next avenue, and it's the financial instruments or other types of financial products that can be done based on the original stock. Is this what the secondary market is all about? Am I saying it wrong now? Because I'm thinking like, you start trading. It's a little bit like the funds start trading with each other, the different brokers start trading with each other, and you can have option trading, you can have derivatives trading, you can have many different financial instruments that has an underlying stock in the primary market first, but we have spawned out to different financial products or instruments that are traded in this sort of financial community.
Yeah. Say that you start a company and Usually, you say you started with 50,000 Swedish krona, and you have 50,000 stocks. So all of the stocks are worth 1 krona. And I invest in your company, 10,000 krona or something like that. I give you 10,000 krona. Then I buy stock from you on the primary market.
Yeah.
If I now sell my stock to Anders, then that is on the secondary market. Because we're selling these stocks between each other.
So that's the real secondary market, that you're basically you're selling it, or you're trading the stock itself between each other.
Exactly. That's a secondary.
And and how should I understand these other types of financial instruments that I was highlighting? That's slightly a different conversation, maybe.
Yeah, it is. It is. So say, for instance, and you can do a parallel on funds here in Europe as well. So if you go to S-Banken and invest money in S-Banken's funds, then you're buying that on the primary market because you're giving money to that
original fund.
Exactly. But ETFs, they're traded on the secondary market in many cases because they're traded on the exchange, right? You're buying
ETFs. You have to
exchange traded funds.
Yeah. I think we need to move on a bit, but it is perhaps we can move back to.
But it's a good one. We got into a rabbit hole,
and we knew it's going to be a rabbit hole.
And it's a rabbit hole outside completely my knowledge comfort zone and yours as well, I guess.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah,
super cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But I think let's move on a little bit, because from here you are then, I think you're going a little bit different route into price. What's the trajectory of the Reuters? Because you're quite strong in the financial space right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do we go from here to all the way to H&M maybe?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from Reuters, I moved into high frequency trading. Yeah. So for a year and a half, I was doing high frequency trading in the US. We had our servers co-located with
we
exchanges.
need to go here.
It's moving into tech now.
This is fibers. At least do the tech part of it. We need to do the tech part of it.
And then after this company, Montanari Capital, I moved to Nasdaq, where I was for 8 years. And essentially, with the knowledge of what you did in high frequency trading, how that whole industry works and how you optimize. I was trying to regulate the market so that we actually that we had an orderly market, right? And then now the past 2 years I've been at H&M, and that's a real big shift because I threw myself out in a void. It's the same type of models in many cases, but the reason why I did it was that back in the late 1990s, I found deep nets, found deep learning models, and I really love them. But you need to use deep data on deep learning, as I see it at least. So images, voice, text, those kind of models. And in finance, it's mostly time series.
Time series data.
Yeah, exactly.
But we jump now some super cool topics. I want to go. Should we spark?
Perhaps just the switch
both
from
frequency trading and the Nasdaq, how to regulate. Those are two fantastic rabbit holes, by the way.
But should we just cover the background first? And it was a big switch from Nasdaq to H&M.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can just talk a bit more how that happened and why you made that switch.
So looking back at my career in finance, I've been in finance for roughly 20 years. I started in 2001 and I stayed there until I think 2019. So 18 years in finance. I had done asset management, which is the period at Exact Fonder. I had done risk management. I had done loads of different things as sort of during my time at Reuters. Then I did high frequency trading, and then I did loads of different things at Nasdaq as well. But I started thinking, what should I do next? Yeah. And it was hard to find something that was really engaging. But then around the period of 2015, when we saw all these developments in what's called the Atari playing games, reinforcement learning, AlphaZero, exactly. I started realizing that deep models were starting to create value. That was actually one of the things that I told Stefan Klang when I interviewed with him, that I want to develop any type of fund, but I would prefer if we can use deep nets. And they weren't called deep nets back then, but anyways. But I started realizing that now it's happening again. Now we're starting to see this, and I wanted to have a Swedish culture, and I wanted to have images. Really, that was the big idea that I had.
Because you started to realize, if I want to work on these types of, I need deeper data than use time series data.
Exactly.
What can I go? Oh, fashion has images.
Exactly, and that was actually also that angle is really attractive to me, because I don't have a fashion sense.
Well, I can join you with that.
And being able to use data in a way to understand fashion, that was really attractive.
The math guy. Okay, here I have a chance to really understand fashion.
Exactly.
The brain doesn't work. I need math.
Exactly. I started actually searching for blogs on math guys trying to learn fashion. And there was this great article about how you combine different colors by a real math geek somewhere in the world. It was really fun reading.
Yeah.
I'm actually adding a topic here that we shouldn't go into now, but we spoke about the value of the stock exchange or the stock market. I would love to have a topic about the value of fashion as well, but perhaps not now.
Yeah,
I just added to the backlog.
But I think, there are so many great topics you also come up with, that we need to talk about, Bjorn, in terms of, what we are working on and how we can improve it and all that. So I think we should move into H&M now to set that context. And do that for a little while, and then we can move into a lot of rabbit holes, including tech stack for frequency trading.
Yeah, let's do that.
And some math as well, perhaps some Bayesian statistics.
Yeah. Exactly. But let's H&M. Yeah. So what are you doing in H&M, and how would you frame data and AI and how that works in H&M, and what your team and what you guys are doing?
Currently, I head up the data science organization, or everyone who works with data science and putting data science models into production at H&M. We're roughly 50 people. 1 year ago, we were 15. So we're growing very rapidly, the way that
roles are you growing for?
Sorry.
Sorry. I was
what roles are you growing then? Like when you're going from 15 to 50, going back to the original conversation, what roles is sort of growing the fastest?
Well, this is only data scientists.
Only data scientists?
This is only data scientists. So only people working with the models.
And so not even ML engineers?
No, exactly.
So 15 to 15 data scientists.
Yes, exactly.
In a broader cross-functional team.
So right now we're more than 200 people in the AI Foundation.
Yeah, so the organization you belong to is called AI Foundation.
Exactly. And then outside of the AI Foundation, which is a product area that we have the AI Analytics and Data domain, AIAD. And that there we have, I think the latest number I heard was 681 people.
But so actually one way of digging into this is to actually understand a little bit about how you have organized this, because we are throwing out the different couple of units.
Yeah.
So maybe start a little bit like, how is H&M organized? Because we know H&M, but we don't really, everybody doesn't know how it works as a value chain, so to speak. And in relation to that, how is that tech, how is that organized? So we get a feeling for H&M and how it all fits together.
Yeah, exactly. So if we start with the value chain, which I think is a good way to approach it from the start, H&M doesn't really produce their own clothes, but we design them, and then we source from external providers, manufacturing firms scattered across the globe. So we have an area that's called assortment, where the design happens, and also assortment quantification, and thinking about the different the different concepts that we have. H&M is not just the H&M brand. We also have other brands like Arket and Kos and a few others. But then we have the next area is where we source, sourcing and production. So
that's sourcing manufacturers for the clothes.
Exactly. And then logistics.
So logistics is actually if you follow the value chain now, the sourcing is one part, and you get production, and then you get the logistics.
Exactly. Separately. And then we have customer, I would say. Now the names of the different areas is different, and there's you can go down into rabbit holes here as well.
Yeah.
But what about the stores themselves? I mean, logistics is one thing. Wouldn't the stores themselves be some thing to optimize?
That's part of the customer.
It's part of customer.
If you put a huge umbrella, it's customer, and then you can have digital channels. You can have brick and mortar.
Exactly. It actually falls into multiple different domains. So what we've done is that we've created something like a Spotify type of organization where we have domains and product areas and products everywhere. And the stores actually they go into multiple buckets. So if we start in the assortment area, thinking about how to optimally design a store, it falls in under assortment planning, store planning, etc. Now we try to we're constantly evolving the organization as well. So starting now a specific product area that thinks about how to cater for the needs of the stores, and that's in the customer domain. Specifically.
It's a bit strange for me, because I think the customers is such a different thing than the product. And in your case, is the product mainly the clothes, or is the stores themselves a product in some way? Since you've been so focused on stores.
Yeah, exactly. So in the good old days at H&M, you could definitely build a career on just being able to open up stores in a really, really fast fashion. Right now, it's more about where to optimally locate them and what to do with the stores as well. There's a great value of the stores, just meeting up and seeing the things in real life. I think also what we did with Arket is a really good first idea of
what is Arket?
Arket is one of the brands that we have, and the concept is really that we combine clothes with a cafe. So the social gathering in a store, really taking that to
the understanding for the purpose and value of the store is evolving.
Yes,
because to use physically get your hands on a piece of H&M garment, you can do that online.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and why do I then need a store? Well, I need it for this purpose or this purpose, and this is now evolving of how we understand the full customer experience.
Exactly. And now most of the products that we have, they try to think
omni-channel.
Exactly, omni-channel. How do you actually, should we have our warehouses in the stores? How should we distribute clothes from warehouses or stores, or how do we work with that in a good way? But also, how should people be shopping? Many use their apps, even if they're in the stores or in a warehouse. So potentially you can shop and just pick it up in the store as well.
But how do you think about online stores though? I mean, we can compare to IKEA, I guess. It was very much a store focused, and they still had the paper catalog that they focused so much on, while Ingvar Kamprad still was driving the whole thing. But I guess they're moving more and more online. Do you see, I mean, online could also be seen as, so many different ways you can have an online store.
Yeah.
Could be different, types of clothes or garments or products that you sell, or it could be based on different type of customers, or you can create so many different experiences there as well, just as you can with physical stores. Or do you see online stores just like a single global market?
Yeah, exactly.
That you sell all the things in, or how do you compare the online versus physical stores?
I think the interesting question is what is going to be seen as online and offline in the future. So something that really engages me is because I don't have a fashion sense, I'd like to be able to go into a store and stand in front of a mirror and it suggests what I wear, depending on what I actually, am I going to a date or am I going to a party? Yeah.
So even a recommender system in the mirror sort of thing.
Exactly.
An augmented reality with, taking your picture and adding clothes on top of it, I guess.
Exactly. And this, the multiverse. I mean, are we...
you have to go to the multiverse.
Is H&M there?
Where we have ideas. Yeah, we are there with a store in the multiverse, actually.
So you're one of the brands that is quite early inside the multiverse.
It was one of the first ones that actually opened the store.
That's what I mean.
Multiverse.
Exactly.
You and Nike, I think, and a couple of more. You have Nike and more or less.
Yeah, Nike was among the first.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's go there a little bit. So what was that all about? You had your store there?
It's actually not something that we were involved in, unfortunately, and I don't know too much about it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's cool anyway.
It is cool.
Which multiverse are we speaking about here that you actually launched in? Yeah. Goran wants us to move on. Okay. Very quickly, perhaps. Can you just speak about the H&M multiverse experience?
The idea that we have, I mean, we use the multiverse really internally as a concept of merging the online experience with the physical experience. But also, we are moving towards a world where we don't just want to sell H&M clothes. We want to sell other brands as well. We also want to resell your clothes.
I've seen this. This was actually launched quite recently, right? That your secondhand, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know how. Well,
we call it resell.
Resell.
Yeah.
That went live quite recently, right?
Yeah, I think it was last week.
Yeah, so this is a new, this is also the whole sustainability trend and around sustainable consumption and all that.
And that's also one of the reasons that I felt really attracted by H&M when I started here as well, that there was a strong commitment to the to sustainability. And really when you start thinking about it, if we can improve how we design clothes and not just how we design them, but making sure that as little as possible goes on sale, that's going to be a huge winning for H&M, both from a profitability level, but also from sustainability.
And what's the deal now? Are you only reselling your own branded stuff, or are you reselling anything?
Well, H&M also owns Selfie.
Yeah, that's right. So you can do. So basically, if it's H&M's, we can go this way. If otherwise, you can go to Selfie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also how we are thinking about Omni. I mean, we want to sell other brands. We want to resell any kind of brand as well. And that creates complexity for us on the AI side, right? Because we want to support with automatic transcription, automatic sort of recommendation of how to sell this to other customers based on just an image or something like that, a very noisy image that people add to the site.
Yeah, but maybe we should go back there just to finish off the story. So we have a sort of high-level value chain painted, and then we dug a little bit into the customer domain. Mm-hmm. So how do we now fit the tech organization towards this? Like if we are starting from the AI foundation, but how does this stack up towards the value chain? How is tech organized, or IT or data? I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, I think the whole discussion around, now you can go into an app and buy your clothes. And that was the starting point of this whole journey that H&M is on right now. Because up until around 2015, the growth strategy of H&M was really tied to stores. And you can see this on the stock price as well. It took a huge dip there that people realized that this is potentially not sustainable with the way that people are starting to move to online channels and buying. And that's when Karl-Johan went to Arti, this classical discussion or description, how that all happened. And when we started the AI function. Based on when we had the AI function and started to realize what we actually need to do in order to become truly digital, that's when the business tech journey started, when we merged business, tech, and AI into one function that works in these Scrum teams and creating the domains around.
But can we slow down right here? Because definitely. I think a lot of larger corporates are sort of in their traditional IT supply, IT demand, IT Tom. McKinsey's, I think, coined it in the 90s, and we're living by it. We have an IT supply with the CIO, it's IT, and now we have an IT demand maybe with a BIO or someone who's sort of translating the business needs and the business budget to the IT supply, and there's this distance in some ways, right? And here now we come with data and we come with business intelligence and AI, and the CIO originally was there to have the basic systems running and infrastructure, and now data and analytics. So we are all struggling in understanding the role of IT and how it has grown now. And here we now have H&M talking about business tech. What is business tech, or how is this sort of what you're thinking here?
The business tech organization, the idea behind it is really to place business as closely as possible together with tech. And to me, that is having a common culture. That business speaks tech and tech speaks business, and everyone understands AI essentially. And data, definitely. For me, data science is really about creating value from data. So there is no...
And just to position, is business tech here, and do we still have or how would I frame it, IT or like an IT department or is that all emerging into business tech?
We don't have any IT department outside of business tech.
No, so the new form organization around technology became business tech, and then basically was made up. You had AI as a core separate function over here, what Arti created, and then you had traditional IT where you have your different system of records or different core systems, legacy systems.
Yes,
and out of this you shaped business tech.
Yeah, exactly. And that has been ongoing for a long period of time, 1.5 years now. And we knew that the original blueprint for business tech was just a early blueprint, and that the structure would evolve, which it also is. But I think it's a really good effort and shows the founding family's dedication to this transformation journey.
And what was the compelling? Because this is a huge transformation, I would argue, and I applaud it well, because I think this distance between traditional IT and business is killing any journey to become truly digital. So I think, but it's so painful because we haven't been used to doing it like this. So why did you do it, or what was the compelling event? So how was the conversation that we need to do this? Do you remember the story?
It was really that the growth strategy was out the window. We couldn't survive on just starting up new stores. That was the reason, and it was tested during these initial years to see if we could transform. But then also, what people realized was that we needed to also transform not just sort of the ways of working within the IT department and business, that relationship, but also how all of our processes work, how logistics works, that we actually need to have data on how things are shipped globally. So it's a huge change, not just sort of limited to the ways of working between business and tech, I would argue.
We were a little bit onto this already.
Yeah.
What is the real change here, or what is it that you need to change? You commented like we have this classical McKinsey 7S. You had to remind me what the 7S was all about. But,
exactly.
But in a nutshell, if you rephrase what you said, if you change one of those 7S's,
you need to change all of it, definitely. So if you change the organization, or if you're planning to change your strategy, you need to change your organization. You need to change potentially the profiles they recruit to different roles. So it has a huge impact. And finding this, the optimal structure is sort of a reinforcement learning problem, right? You need to test and evolve.
But I think the profound learning or the profound realization, I had a very similar realization that you can't change this you can't approach this as a pure tech problem, or you can't approach this as a pure organization problem. It's a multifaceted problem, and it's like the old korthus, like the house of cards. If you pull that, it falls. So you need to have it all sort of work as a holistic system.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, that is finding this common culture that everyone needs to have their specialized roles. Going into the discussion about we started with just data scientists, and now we have a huge spectrum of different roles. But all of those people need to have a common understanding of what it is how they create value in this organization. So there's both the commonality, but also the differences, the spectrum. In many cases, the way I think about the H&M organization is like it's a small city. And we have loads of different initiatives driven by different areas of this city. But if we don't all believe in this city's prosperity, then it's all out the window.
There's so many dimensions in this conversation now. Like one of the that comes to me. I don't know if you want to go down here, but I find this a really, really, we are all clear that this is how it should be done. I truly believe it. But then we have the reality of we have our different backgrounds. So we have different, how should I put it, different literacy and understanding of tech versus different literacy and understanding the domain. We have different lingo. One guy is speaking Chinese. If you're one manufacturing here, we speak English, and now we should all speak Python.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so many challenges to get this to fly, right?
Exactly. And also tying back to the discussion that we had that, a data scientist can't solve everything, and an ML engineer can't solve everything either. We, in order to serve our models on websites globally, we can't do that on the people that we have. We have a whole transformation stream just focused on how to serve real-time APIs. We have a whole transformation stream just how the website is going to serve models. It's huge.
Yeah. What thoughts are you coming up with here? Because there's so many dimensions we can go, but we can also continue down.
I want to move into technical topics. I'm just waiting for that. But just speaking a bit more about the team the teams that you're having is called the AI function, and you also had all the different value change parts that we have, from the design to the manufacturers to the assortments, logistics, and the customers and everything. What are you working with right now? Can you mention some examples of how you're trying to find value in data in these different parts of the value chain?
It is constantly across the whole value chain, so it's difficult to sort of narrow it down.
We don't have to give a full, but just some interesting examples.
I think there's things on new things developed and things on improving how we're working, both on modeling, definitely. Some of the new interesting thing that we're working on is the way that we want people to be able to find clothes, for instance, in this new multiverse.
And why do you call it multiverse? With the multiverse, do you mean the combination of the physical and online?
Yeah,
experience?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just the multiverse. It's actually it is both the physical and the online experience, so to speak.
Exactly. And also own brands and other brands.
Yeah. Good. Cool. And then you want to help people find clothes somehow? Exactly.
So what we've done historically is that we've, and this is a potentially interesting discussion when we talk about Spotify and how recommendations work there, because the challenge that we have is that at Spotify you listen to music and you listen to playlists, whereas at H&M what you want to do with buying clothes is that you want to combine the clothing item that you have with other things that you have in your wardrobe.
I guess we could compare it to a genre in music as well. You want to find something, I guess it's different because you want to have similar in that case and you want to have complementary kind of clothing.
Exactly.
I want my wardrobe that I buy a new piece. I love it. I want to buy it, but it's a problem if I buy a piece of clothing that doesn't fit with anything else I wear.
Exactly.
Then you need to be like us and not having the fashion sense, and then it works.
Exactly.
But that's the point, right? How can I smartly invest in my beautiful items, but being able to, this will fit well together in my wardrobe.
Exactly. And one of the inspirations that we have here is that Pinterest, for instance. We want to be able to offer people the ability to create outfits using style boards in order to understand how people put together outfits.
Now, a style board is what?
A style board is where you essentially it's a generalization of favorites. Right now you can favoritize items, and these are the things that you really like. And based on your favorite items, we would potentially give different recommendations to you. But if we can create multiple different style boards, and you can also give these style boards name, then we can start understanding that this is something that is called for my party. This is date night. This is something else. And then you start understanding this more complicated concept of an outfit. The interesting thing...
It's actually similar to music in some way. You have party music, date music, work music, sleep music.
Exactly.
You have sleep clothes, you have work clothes, you have date clothes, you have party clothes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Karaoke show.
That's let's not go there.
Anders is a big karaoke fan, so we can go there later.
Karaoke night.
With an H&M empowered clothing and a Spotify empowered music, perhaps. Yes. Okay, cool.
That would be a karaoke party from hell, right?
From hell, yes.
Yeah. Or maybe the ultimate.
I think this is a really interesting point. So okay, let's say that someone is interested in having a nice party outfit somehow.
Yeah.
And how can potentially AI help H&M and customers with doing that?
I mean, usually the way AI works is that you have some training sets and you learn from people and you generalize, right? So what we want to have is people tagging clothes as party outfits and then learning what are common patterns across that and then generalizing. What I find is super interesting when we have a global brand like H&M is that we can also learn how party as a concept differs between different regions.
All right.
So,
of course.
Yeah. Well, one thing in one of our early models, this was that people wanted to see what we had something that was called style clusters, and people wanted to understand what the style clusters looked like in Japan. Everyone wanted to know what the style clusters look like in Japan
because they are the first.
Yeah.
They know the shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they really? Who is the pioneers of any kind of fashion that happens? Who is first coming up with new fashion styles? The first is it a specific region in the world that is leading the drive in fashion? That's
so super interesting. I don't know. From my own experience, I don't know. But what I understand is that it depends on your subgenre. So I have a product owner in the team, and he was like, "There's this bar down in Gothenburg, and they're always 6 months ahead of me." And I was like, "How do you know? How do you know they're ahead of you and not sort of just on a tangent or something else?" No, 6 months.
But I can really resonate with that because if you think about haute couture or fashion like this, I'm speaking as a no knowledge, and then I can contrast that with Japan has been really famous for their sneaker culture. So as an example, sneakers was really super popular and became fashion statements in the US. But the ones who made it into a collectible was actually Japan, and then it went huge in US, and then you have all these collaborations around sneakers. I mean, so I can really understand how Japan has one part nailed, and then you have, I would assume, the normal fashion capitals has the other parts.
Exactly. I think London, for instance, has one subgenre. Paris has one. New York has one. But Japan definitely had one of the core customers that H&M has is the young female, and I think for them, I mean, it's probably Paris as well, but Tokyo was really bubbling.
But cool. You speak a lot about the domain, a lot about the business. I'm really lacking the tech here.
Let's go there now. But
do you have anything? I understand you can't speak about everything you're doing, but can you give some examples, perhaps, how some kind of AI technology would help with finding outfits that complement each other in some way?
I think again, going back to the Pinterest. I mean. And I'm mostly on the modeling aspect. What I really like is the graph neural network approach there. Yeah. Basically, because it combines all of the different elements that I think make up fashion. So you have the image, you have the text.
And the image of a specific garment or like piece of clothing.
Exactly.
Yes?
Exactly.
Not the person, but actually the clothes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have the description of this, and then you have the network effect.
Network between what? Network between people.
Yeah. So
not between the clothes in some way, how they are combined or something.
You could do that as well, depending on which network architecture that you want to use. But I'm mostly thinking about you as a person will be influenced by the clothes that other people are wearing, and therefore you're looking at other people and trying to learn from them. It's not the clothes learning from each other.
So would you argue like network effect around different, I would argue like fashion communities? I mean, like these are the street guys, this is the skaters, is that
Don't distract the tech talk here now.
Sorry.
Okay, so we had a graph neural network that connects images of clothes, descriptions, I guess in text, and then we have networks of people that wear clothes in some combination. And how have you done any prototype of this, or can you just elaborate a bit more how that works?
Yeah, I mean, Pinterest Small really builds on the concept of pin boards. So you need to have the style boards in order to get the data to do this properly. So far we haven't used it with the network effect.
Okay. But you have the clothes and the descriptions then, and focus on that, or?
Exactly. So we put them through embeddings, and then use the embeddings to learn from these. And it works pretty well.
Okay, so just, sorry, I want to go as techy as we can.
Techy as we can, yeah.
So you have clothes, some images, and you find some embedding of those. Can you mention some network you're doing, or some kind of neural network that you are using to get the embedding from the clothes itself?
I mean, we're experimenting with all different, and I actually don't know which one is performing the best. We have them all that also automatically, it's AutoML. It trains all of
so you use AutoML on Google, or which AutoML are you using?
Proprietary. So we have multiple different models, and then just train all of them and automatically choose. So that is
like a hyperparameter tuning kind of thing, or is it actually different models?
It's not an AutoML in the sense that it's deciding on the network architecture, at least not in the version that I saw.
Not like architectural search or anything like that.
No, exactly.
But AutoML in the sense that it's trying a set of different models and then choosing the best one.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And it's still basically deep learning kind of networks that you're trying or experimenting with?
Exactly.
Cool. And you get some embedding, and you do the same with the descriptions, I guess, and you get some embedding from those as well?
Exactly.
And I guess it's some kind of BERT-based model, or do you know which model?
It's a good guess. Everyone goes with BERT.
Yeah. I'm trying to drag you out with some details, but I can understand you don't want to talk too detailed about this, but
the thing is that we're in a very exploratory phase right now. So the thinking is that we'll probably fund a few PhD programs just on this topic because it's such a big topic for us. But yeah, we experiment with different versions of this, seeing which one is the best. So it's not like, okay, this one is the one that we use.
And how do you know which one is the best then? So you have some kind of input, you have the close, the description, you want to see how they are connected. And then in some way you want to have some objective, something that you can try to optimize for. What's that going to be? Is just the frequency of people wearing that combination of clothes, or what is the objective?
So what we've used, we've used mostly offline metrics, so precision or recall or a combination of the two. But then
to classify what if they actually have these clothes in combination or what?
Exactly. And then
online would be fun though, if you actually tell people to wear it and then see what happens.
Exactly.
That's in vitro versus in vitro kind of experimentation. But it would be fun if you also do on purpose kind of exploration with trying to suggest bad combination of clothes and see how people react.
Exactly.
Perhaps not very ethical, but fun.
Fun though.
Definitely if they post them.
But could we explore a little bit and how is this sort of what's the vision or dream around putting this in production? How would we envision this as a user experience? So what are you going to do with it, or how are you going to experience this?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really interesting discussion. So far, what we've done is that we've done offline testing of this and trying to find the best combination of different network architectures and embedding spaces, et cetera, et cetera. What we've also done is that we've done A/B testing of this. It works pretty well, definitely. But we have multiple different versions of this, and we have multiple different types of architecture. So not just using graph neural networks, but also other deep learning models. And depending on which version of this, the A/B testing results.
So how does the A/B testing work? So does it provide recommendations when you have bought something and you have some kind of complementary items to buy, or how does the A/B testing actually work?
It depends on the product. So sometimes we look at transactions and sometimes we look at clicks. We do this over emails. We do this on the site. So depending on if it's, for instance, in an email, in many cases it's click-through rates. But we could do that on transaction as well. But then it's just normal A/B testing.
That makes sense. Awesome. So that sounds like a really interesting project. Do you have a name for it, like complementary clothing optimization or something?
I don't know if I should say, but it doesn't matter too much.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. That's one example. Anything else you can share? Some interesting example that you're working with? I mean, we have, we're experimenting with, for instance, Markdown. We have a product called Markdown Online, also working on a Markdown in stores.
So helping the stores to identify the right timing and the right markdown.
Exactly.
In order to have the optimum price in relation to movement of goods of store, turnaround in the store, and also not selling out too quickly. Having a good assortment of different clothes for customers entering the store, and also doing predictions on when things are. So this becomes recommender systems for the store, so to speak, in order to balance and optimize the assortment in the store, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Another very interesting project actually is using external data to understand how different demographics and customer groups are scattered through the globe, and thereby understanding how to optimally tailor our assortment to the stores and also develop the assortment in a good way. So do we have specific buying patterns that can be traced to certain regions, demographic groups, ethnic groups. Generally, sort of, can we predict where certain groups of outfits would make more sense? And potentially, do we want to build a new brand around that?
We had another guest before that spoke about creating brands and doing that in extreme, if you remember.
Yeah, I have Bjorn Hertzberg, a friend of mine who has a background in fashion tech. He's running a blog, Framtidens e-handel, where he's been going down the path of the future of the e-business, and in particular fashion retailing, right? And basically, of course, now when you have drop shipping from China and all that, you can start creating completely different business models. So he had a guest on his podcast where he had taken the whole automation of new brands to the next level. So this is real, right? So there's a guy out there in Sweden who starts about just pop up on internet 10 to 20 brands per week. And basically, so he's trying to pick the trends. I know we need handbags, or now the time is to buy whatever. And then basically he creates a brand as a store brand, and then he has assortment that is shipped from China. And then basically he's doing A/B testing on brand level. In the hundreds. So all of a sudden, so he has the whole model wired. So how he basically sees what is taking off, and then he gets stock and what doesn't work, and then he kills it off. But this is really interesting, right? This is going, meta on the whole problem, right? Of brands.
Exactly. No, that's super interesting. Interesting.
And it can all be automated now because he has done the coding, the infrastructure is code, how to set up a Shopify setup shop, how to brand it, how to color it, even the logo generator.
Is it GAN based?
I don't know, but it was interesting how you can go meta on e-commerce. How you can really think in many different dimensions here, of course.
I think we just have 25 minutes left here, and we need to stop at 7 o'clock sharp. It would be fun to just close off a bit H&M and see. Perhaps you can mention something about future plans that you're having for the AI function or H&M, or something that customer could potentially look forward to soon. Anything you can mention there?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure I can do that, unfortunately.
I guess that's much. But, okay.
But let's. Can I reframe it a little bit?
Yes.
So, what is your outlook? What is the trend? What is the path right now for sort of 2022, 2023? What will we see more of in general? I think you have highlighted how to experiment with outfits and all that. This is the one major trend that will come, or is already quite deep in the makings. Do you see any other core trends which will be very, very much data and AI driven?
I think the way that people interact with clothes and styles in general will develop a lot during the year. So the ability to find, we have so many clothes, individual items on our store, and many times people use Google instead to try to find the clothes that they're looking for. The ability to give people the best shopping experience and finding the thing that they want, even if they've never shopped at H&M before, that is what we're actually investing a lot of time in right now.
And that leads to perhaps a more difficult question, perhaps, but I think it's interesting to just think about the best shopping experience, as you spoke about. And we also had Amazon launching in Sweden recently, and I think a lot of e-commerce companies was really scared about this, but it didn't turn out to be that big of at least not that big of an impact yet. Or what's your thinking about one of the biggest companies in the world coming? And they have, extreme market share in the US, for example. Do you fear the on take of these kind of big tech giants and how they could influence? H&M is a really big company, but if we speak more generally about like smaller retailers or e-commerce companies, do you think that's a real danger that can happen in coming 5 years?
I think people really need to start thinking a lot about how people want to shop, just as you say. And the question is, do you want to shop on Amazon? Do you want to shop everything through the same outlet, or do you want to have something that's more geared to a specific need that you have? I potentially wouldn't go to Clas Ohlson to buy everything. I want to have some.
Can Clas Ohlson have the same kind of customer experience as these kind of huge tech giants have and provide, with the best type of recommendations, delivery on the same day or hour and whatever? Exactly.
It really depends on what you're after, right? And I think people need to think about that. I think that the stores, for instance, is one of it's a benefit for us, even though it's very costly. But if we think smartly about how to leverage stores, definitely it can be a key competitive advantage. I think that's also why Amazon is thinking about stores, right? How to use the stores and how to do them in a good way.
Do you sell H&M clothes through Amazon?
Not that I know of, but we have a few other cooperations like Myntra. So in India, we have.
But okay, so what's your prediction for 5 years ahead? Do you think, we have spoken a lot about the AI divide, and these kind of tech giants are hard to beat because they have such, awesome technology serving them. And it's hard for the small companies like Clas Ohlson and whatnot to keep up.
Yeah.
Do you think this will start to converge, or they will actually start to catch up, or do you think it will increase in the divide between this type of huge tech giants and the small average kind of company?
I think it depends on the time scale. So I love this expression that in order for AI to be really valuable, it needs to be boring. And I think if you can just download AI capabilities from Google easily and integrate into your web portal, then what will the key competitive advantage be? Using AI or not using AI? Potentially, it can be sort of the ability to use the data. Potentially, the front ends will change as well. And now when I say front end, I really mean the browser. The browser potentially can give the recommendation like Google is doing in many cases. So I think it's really early to say. I don't necessarily see that Amazon has a huge advantage, especially not compared with H&M. But it could go down that route.
But let's move out of H&M here a little bit, and we have a couple of very interesting topics that Bjorn pointed out that I think we should go into now. And I think the first one is a perfect segue from your question, Anders. And I'm actually reading a little bit how Bjorn has. You did it really well. You framed it as what we could talk about, and help me here, because you have done some sort of thinking around, if on a macro level we have seen, if we learn from the past, if we learn from the history, that whoever is mastering a certain capability in society has over time always there has been a distribution of wealth towards those capabilities, and now we have new capabilities in AI. So could you please, I would like to hear your words on the whole story here, what I was trying to say now. But if we take the historical perspective and then move, and from that past take us into a trajectory.
Yeah, definitely.
That conversation. Please elaborate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it all goes back to sort of the concept of the fourth industrial revolution. So we had different ways of industrial revolution, and the last big wave of this, as I see it at least, started in the early 1900s. when more and more people were freed up from farming so that they could go into education. That opened up for more and more people going into engineering and more specialized engineering, and we had the advent of the computer. This old Babbage machine was finally put in production, and that.
And a computer before computer existed was actually a human doing calculations.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I love that.
Have you seen that a NASA movie of the first computers at NASA?
Yeah,
there's a beautiful movie around who were the computers at NASA, and this was human computers, and then they had the first IBM machine, and eventually those ladies, it was a group of ladies that was computers. They figured out to learn how to program, Anyway, this is a good movie on computers.
Yeah, hidden curves, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
It was really good. Yeah, definitely.
As a math nerd and computer nerd, it's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. But please, back to we're moving into a story around industrialization and how we now pick up the thread again here.
Yeah, and if you look at, again, going back to my sort of finance background, if you look at the biggest companies in the 50s, they were mostly like in oil, gas, automotive. But if you look at the 1970s, they were starting. You started getting, Nasdaq was formed back then, right? And you started getting these tech companies, and that was the unlisted stocks that went to Nasdaq. But that was IBM, not IBM, but Microsoft, Apple, all of these companies were listed on Nasdaq. But also, if you go to, for instance, Our World in Data, you can see a really interesting pattern of how much wage in a country that went to the top 1% earning people in the world. And it actually bottoms in the 1970s. So you can see that in Sweden, the top 1% earners were making 4% of the total wage. And in the US, it was 8%. Since then, it has increased. And in the US, it's back at the same level as it was in the
50s, even earlier.
Yeah, 1990s. 1990s.
Yeah.
So
what you're saying is the distribution of wealth right now, the 1% earns more of the whole gross national product of the country, so to speak.
Yeah, they earn, I think it's like 25-30% of all wealth in or all income.
And now here we are talking about then that if you own the oil fields, and now if you own the data fields,
yeah, exactly.
You have a condensed type of organization has a capability that the other ones don't possess.
Yeah,
it drives inequality.
Yeah, it's
ultimately
huge differences in wealth and in income.
And typically, what's the problem with that?
I think criminality, the risks of people saying that you potentially you went to college, yada yada, but still you're making that much more than me. So I think people can accept some degree of sort of wage discrepancy, and that's probably cultural dependent, how big that difference can be. But
you're ultimately building a class society.
Yes,
in the end, we are actually on a trajectory which is taking us back to a class society. We're not moving forward. We can talk about this as much as we want, but in the real data, the amount of people, the few that owns the more, has gone up since the 70s.
Yeah.
And quite dramatically.
Quite dramatically. We're back at the 1800s.
Which is, if someone really studying the macroeconomical effects on that, it means revolution.
Yes, it does.
Ultimately, that's what it means. This is the French Revolution. We've done it, been there.
Yes, exactly.
It's the social revolution, socialist revolution in Sweden, if you want to go more closer to Sweden.
Yeah, exactly.
And the numbers in the data of the inequality is getting close to those numbers where the spark is all we need.
Yeah, exactly. And that's especially in the US.
Yes.
It's not as dramatic here in Europe.
True.
luckily.
It's funny how, people with a strong economic, background and knowledge can phrase things about data and AI in a way that perhaps tech people like myself and others cannot. And
this is the AI divide.
No,
this is the AI divide.
That's another type of AI divide. But I'm thinking about another person that I usually actually speak about when I try to speak about AI, and he's called AIAW. I'm not sure if you know him, but he was an author of a book called Prediction Machine. Mm-hmm. And he was a professor in economy, and then he turned into AI, in recent years. But he tried to compare the revolution of AI to other big disruptions that happened in the past. So he compared AI to the internet and to the transistor. And you spoke about the computer, and the transistor led to the computer that we all have. And this would be fun to hear if you agree with. But to keep it short, I see the time is flying away. But he basically said, we had one big revolution in the 1950s-ish with the computer and the transistor that led to the jobs we had at that time, being a human computer, was changed. And a new type of jobs that we never seen before was created, being a developer in some way. And then we had the internet that became popular really in the mid-90s with the web, etc. And then once again, we could see a big change. And he also said that what actually is causing the big disruption is a very simple thing for an economist, which is that the cost of something drastically drops.
Yes, exactly.
So for the computer, it was the cost of computation. For the internet, it was the cost of distributing information or products and services. And once again, we could see the jobs we had at that time changed, and completely new type of jobs, web developers and whatnot was created.
E-commerce.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said now with AI, which really became popular not until the mid-2010-ish, 15 plus, had once again, changed that the cost of something drastically dropped, and that was making predictions.
Yeah.
He said, this will once again be a big disruption that will cause that jobs that we have will change, and new type of jobs, being data labeler, who knows, will be created. That sounds like a really boring job.
We need to have someone else.
He actually claims that this disruption that AI will cause will be bigger than the internet and the transistor. Do you agree with that?
I haven't thought about that question specifically. I'm not sure. It really depends on where you draw the line between AI and. But yeah, predictions in general you do that everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. You do that with. I remember a discussion in the hallways of when I was working at risk management. Two senior guys, quants, they were talking about what kind of prediction algorithm can you use to predict what optimal wife you can get. And they actually, it was really interesting because the algorithm was really, you need to date a few women. You need to have some sample to baseline your expectations. What can I get? What kind of profile? And even if you do it unidimensional, that you just can set a number on a person, it still becomes a really, really complicated question. Now, if you can automate that and make predictions about anything in your life, definitely it's going to have a huge impact.
Yeah. Perhaps it's time to also think about the IBM values that they spoke about. They had 3 values, one being, that AI can augment intelligence in humans. It can, they want the insights to provide to customers, and they also want transparency and explainable predictions and whatnot. But if we just connect to that and say, what is really the best way to use data and AI to serve society or companies like H&M? Do you believe it's mainly to augment humans, or is it more to provide autonomous services that work without humans?
I've thought a lot about questions along this line, and essentially I think in many cases the discussion goes along the line that we're creating a new artificial life somehow, but we're not, right? we're still
not yet,
alone.
at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Not yet.
Yeah, but we're still alone on the planet, and we're trying to create this company for us.
As far as we know, it could be a lot of aliens running around, but as far as we know, we're not still alone.
No, I think we should be thinking about augmenting ourselves, definitely, without a doubt.
I think that's been the general consensus, I think, of most people here, that AI should be used as a decision support system than an automated system by itself.
But I want to circle back to when we're talking about this, what happens when core capabilities happens with the few or whatever, and we're now talking about how big the disruption could be potentially. So if I try to close the knot on this conversation, how do we want AI to develop? How do we build, what is it important that this becomes an inclusive topic? If it is disruptive, if we have these sort of financial segregation happening, aren't we here also then to think carefully about how to create a society where more people are in on the ride, so to speak? Or because I could sort of smell or sense a direction in, how to build an inclusive data and AI society with disruption around the corner. Do we really want the few to disrupt the many, or do we want to teach ourselves to disrupt ourselves, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. I just thinking about how tech is, in many cases, I think that when we are in the middle of a technology and trying to understand how this should be democratized to everyone, we're overdoing it. I think one of the best examples of how AI, I think, will work in the future is this Excel add-in for GPT-3. Right? If you just can access AI and you can use it for your own predictions, then that's good enough, because Excel is the tech tool for most people, right? Just being able to do calculations. It's super good.
So what you're saying is we don't need to all be data scientists, but we basically need to make AI abundant, so to speak, and make its way into the everyday tools, so to speak.
Yeah.
And in this way, amplify people without almost knowing about it, that they're using AI.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Infused. Infused is the word that I use for
infused.
Yeah, definitely. So it needs to be everywhere, and it needs to be easily accessible to everyone. That you can. And going back to the discussion about Amazon as well, if AI is infused for everyone to use, it's boring to use. You just need to add AI, then Amazon doesn't have an edge in that respect.
But this links back a little bit to Henrik Landgren. Sorry, Henrik Landgren said something quite important in key success factors around succeeding with AI adoption of algorithms. So he worked a lot with AIAW Ventures, and they built Motherbrain, which is about using AI to help a VC fund, right? And one of the key findings he thinks is that if you truly want to have adoption of AI, you need to bring the algorithm seamlessly into the normal workflow of people.
Yes.
As long as you're trying to get someone to do the job here and then move over here to do your BI reporting, it won't really change behavior. Yeah. So you need to seamlessly get AI into the normal workflow. And this correlates very well with what you right now said. If this is going to be an inclusive part, it needs to be infused.
Yeah. Exactly.
So and this is a learning on the micro level. If I want to succeed with AI in my company, the take-up needs to be right there and right then in your normal work, infuse. And on a macro level, infusion is the way to drive, inclusion.
Yeah.
Is that I'm trying to condense a couple of ideas here. Do you?
I totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, that needs to be the way that we develop systems. If it becomes an extra burden to use AI, then you're going to exclude some people.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I think that's resonates a lot with what Google and everyone else is saying. So many people are afraid about technology in that they don't think they can handle other, large menus somewhere in some kind of horrible interface that they can't navigate. But AI is really about removing that, right?
Yes.
And making the interface between the technical system and the humans much more natural in
more seamless.
I like this also the people in UX. I mean, they're talking about how do I remove things, right? How do I remove that click?
And the most beautiful app in Sweden is, in my opinion, Swish. The most simplest app, seamless, works in my daily life.
With face recognition.
With face recognition.
Cool. I think we need to wrap up.
I think this is a very good ending note, because infuse AI is the way to go on a micro level or on a macro level for a more inclusive AI society.
Yes.
Now, with that very nice ending as a thought, the last ending questions we want to ask you is, of course, what's next in your life, Bjorn? Do you have anything exciting coming up, privately or professionally?
Going out for dinner with you guys. That's really exciting.
Are you going to cook something cool? What are you mastering this month?
Actually espresso.
Espresso, you're still on the espresso.
That was January, but it can always be optimized.
And what is your next mastery or learn new skill to learn?
Something that I haven't really learned is making my own BNA sauce.
BNA sauce.
Exactly. It always fails. So I need to learn that one properly, but I can't do it every night, right?
That's good. So the next in my life is Bjorn.
Pizza's been there, and now we have really good pizza at home.
I bought one of those home pizza ovens that goes up to 400 degrees. I can recommend that. It's a really little tiny oven, and you can do it with coal, but I did it with gas. But I can really this is a Napolitan pizza style. This is a little bit the tech nerd or the geek, because I had to. How do you measure the temperature of 400 degrees? I had to buy one of those. Anyway, that's if you're a little bit techy, geeky, and food. Definitely. That's a little good fun. But then you need to learn how to do the dough and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my tip.
I have that one. Definitely, I've learned that one.
Do you have that one?
Yeah.
Then definitely. You can come home to me and make pizza, because I don't know how to make the dough.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Cool. And then maybe last question. Who would you like to see on this podcast? Do you have any good ideas for who we should invite?
That's a good question. I haven't thought too much about it. Definitely Andrew Ng.
Yeah, we have our shortlist with, I think it's Elon Musk, Lex Friedman, and Andrew Ng, right?
Yeah. John LeCun, Benchio, and Hinton, and why not? Yeah.
I think you could try someone who's not here in Sweden, Just Bloom, who replaced Errol Koolmeister.
Just Bloom.
Yeah. He's really good. He's a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, he came in this year, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or last year. Last year.
That's right.
Great.
Mm-hmm. I think with that, Bjorn, what an awesome conversation, and we didn't even get to the from Bayonnaise to Bayesian.
No, exactly.
That would be the perfect segue from Bayonnaise to Bayesian, because we were joking about Göteborgsskämt, ordvitsar.
We did. That would be nice.
But we take that after work.
Let's do that.
Okay, so thank you very much, Bjorn.
Thank you, Bjorn.